Right, the focus of this paper deals with the relationship between exclusion and life expectancy. Some of the misleading measures of economic growth include wealth accumulation, labor inputs, and technological advancement. Wealth accumulation alone provides little indication of wealth distribution, and a possible explanation behind how some of the world's wealthiest nations lag behind impoverished nations in terms of average life expectancy lies in the idea that when wealth becomes concentrated in the hands of a few, with masses living in poverty in the midst of affluence, when economic growth disproportionately favors the upper decile and more so the top 1%, then in quantitative terms they function as outliers with a disproportionate influence on the population mean for the same relative variable. As population outliers, the resulting skewness can mask broad downward mobility experienced by the majority of the population, which includes a loss in the means for life sustainability. Now, worldwide and also locally here in the West, for actually worldwide, mean life expectancy, there's a lot of variation by nation. People who have little control over their basic life situation, including finding a job or employment, or controlling their work context, launching a life course career, may be expected or be less prone to control the health of their bodies and to follow expert advice, and also even their access to proper health care and nutrition. There are some basic key institutions that fuel inequality. Of course, one is the family, the ancient transmission of inequality, both upward and downward mobility through intergenerationally, but also the capitalism itself and also the nation in which you live in. Now, ever since roughly the late 1960s, especially maybe around 1960, might be considered a turning point both here in the U.S. and worldwide, where there was at least for a moment, a global thrust for equality through means of at least formalized decolonization, breakthroughs in women's rights, defeat of overt institutional racism, and also a global diffusion of vaccination, public hygiene, and preventative medicine. But now also, some of the effects of inequality include premature death, ill health, humiliation, subjection, discrimination, exclusion from knowledge, exclusion from mainstream social life, poverty, powerlessness, stress, insecurity, anxiety, lack of self-confidence, and exclusion from life opportunities, the denial of human dignity, and the denial of possible development of human capabilities. Now also, unlike or contrary to what Karl Marx had predicted for the 20th century, has turned into an age of ethno-nationalist conflict rather than revolutionary class struggle. W.E. Du Bois even argued that the color line, beyond not just in the United States but also worldwide, would turn into like the qualitatively equivalence of a caste system, which is one possible explanation behind the great variations when it comes to the disparities between the global south and the global north when it comes to life expectancy. Also, the disparity also is attributed to the lack of access to means of life-sustaining resources, cumulative effects of conflict, and cumulative effects of exclusion. Some raw data. The United States, as of 2018, has a mean life expectancy of exactly 80, which is pretty interesting because Puerto Rico, which is also part of the United States, has a mean life expectation of 80.9. Now, although Puerto Rico is not a U.S. state, it's a commonwealth of the United States. It has by GDP, it ranks less than one half of the poorest of all 50 states. The poorest of all 50 states by GDP is Mississippi. Puerto Rico by GDP is less than that. But their average life expectancy is almost 1 year more than the rest of mainland USA. Now, what are some possible explanations? Of course, geographic differences, local factors, and also despite poverty, one huge difference between Puerto Rico and mainland USA is Puerto Rico is much more poor by GDP. GDP is not a sole measure when it comes to access, but also there is a lesser disparity between the have-a-lots and the have-nots in Puerto Rico, whereas in mainland USA, the disparity is much greater. But now, this is also fascinating here. Let's look at, for example, the Dominican Republic versus Haiti. Those two countries exist in very close proximity to each other, as they both share an island, but they are separated by a political boundary, so politics makes a huge difference. However, there lies a 14-year difference between the average life expectancy between the two countries. If one lives in the Dominican Republic, which has a much lower GDP than the U.S., its mean life expectancy is not that much less than the United States. In the Dominican Republic, it is the mean life expectancy is 71.3, which is, however, the neighboring country has an average life expectancy of 64.2. Just only what separates the two is a political boundary. Now, also, there's some additional data when we're looking at the global South. Of the 36 countries that have a mean life expectancy that is less than Haiti, all of them are in Africa with the exception of Afghanistan. One possible explanation behind, of course, that in Haiti would be the case of Haiti in post-massacre recovery. One of the things of the post-massacre recovery is degradation and the lack of infrastructure, including basic services such as portable water, electricity, sanitation, characterize the wretched living conditions of slums inhabitants and exacerbate their anger and discontent. Now, there's some additional data as far as the global South is concerned, and if we're going to look at, for example, of South America, the country with the greatest life expectancy in South America, which is Chile, 79.1, which is still below that of the United States. In Central America, it's Costa Rica with 78.9. In the Cayman Islands, their average life expectancy is beyond the United States, which is 81.4. But what skews Puerto Rico, however, Cayman Islands is a lot different from the rest of its Caribbean neighbors because they have a significant portion of the population that are non-natives and also non-indigenous population due to the banking industry, because the island itself has about 30,000 population, but they have over 600 banks. And of course, of all of Africa, the one country that has the highest life expectancy is Libya, which is 76.9. And that is the only country in Africa that is northern of the Sahara Desert, the only country in Africa with that is in the top 100 worldwide when it comes to life expectancy. Now, going from 2017 to 2018, the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Dominican Republic, theirs has stayed the same. Haiti's is going up about 0.2%, whereas Puerto Rico and the United States have remained steady. Possible, now as far as any kind of correlation, right now there's some possible explanations regarding life expectancy, which includes capital brought into the country, infant mortality rates, disease control, political violence, and post-conflict recovery. However, as of right now, based on what we have preliminary, everything remains, findings remain inconclusive. However, there's two other stronger predictors, three predictors. Tentatively, GDP has a relatively small positive correlation between life expectancy, but there are two others that are tentatively have a greater predicting, and that is one, the decentralization of power, and also civil society strength. Thank you very much. I have to stop at this point.